The title of the speech is The Voice, and her name is Leah.
Thank you. Hey everyone, I'm Leah. My mission is to leverage empathy, optimism, and my experience to inspire self-awareness and empower individuals to align with their highest potential. Every day we're faced with choices, and our response determines our experience in this body and in this life. Viktor Frankl's book, Man's Search for Meaning, he said, between a stimulus and a response, there is a space. And in our response in that space is our power to choose our response. And in our response lies our growth and our freedom. Now, one of the ways that I believe that we can access our highest potential is to listen to our own intuition. So I want to tell you two stories about one time I listened to that voice and I learned a lesson. The second time I didn't listen to that voice and I learned an even stronger lesson. So the first time I distinctly remember hearing a voice or direction. I was standing next to my mom's bed. She was dying of cancer. She had a couple more weeks to live. And I was staring at her sleeping under the covers. And I heard this voice say, put your hand on her leg. And I thought, that's weird. She's gonna wake up and be like, what are you doing? So I said, no, telepathically. This is all telepathy. And then I heard the voice again, just put your hand on her leg. And I said, okay, I'm gonna bargain with you here. I'll hover my hand over her leg so she doesn't wake up, but I can transmute some energy or some love through that. So I did it. I put my hand hovering over her leg, hoping she wasn't gonna wake up and say, Leah, what are you doing? A year and a half after that day, I was in the Sacred Valley of Peru, getting my yoga teacher training certification. At that point, my mom had died, my childhood best friend had died, and I was saying yes to pretty much anything that seemed like it could help me. And so they were offering Reiki training. I didn't know what it was, but Reiki is Japanese healing, where the practitioners hover their hands over people's bodies to help them heal. Sounded like bullshit. But I figured I'll try it, and I was intrigued because I had been a little familiar with this practice from that one time with my mom. 9 years later after that training, Reiki is now a huge part of my life, my healing, my journey, the work I do with private clients, and the work I do inside of prisons and juvenile detention centers. It has helped me access my psychic powers, I have practiced mediumship, and I have unlocked an entire world in my life that I would have never realized had I not been introduced to this practice. So that was the time I said yes. The other time, I did not listen to that voice. So slight trigger warning, there is some sexual inappropriate conduct in the story. I was in New York City still, this was prior to leaving for South America, and I was going to visit my sister and meet with her after she got out of work. She worked in a very bustling area in New York City where there were these tables and chairs outside to create this like lounge area for New York City people and tourists. So I approached the area. There were two tables, one in the shade and one in the sun. It was a cool day, so of course I want to be in the sun. But again, I heard that voice, Leah, go sit in the shade. And I stopped in my tracks and I looked at both tables and I thought, how bad could it be if I sit in the sun? So I did. I didn't ignore the voice, went and sat at the table in the sun. So I sat down, pulled out my journal, started doing some free writing. And then a gentleman came over, 60s, 70s or so, sat down across from me. I nodded in acknowledgement of his presence there, looked back down at my journal, and in a few seconds later, looked up and realized he had started masturbating right there. Now I'd heard about that story, those things happening in New York City to people. In the 8 years I lived in the city, that had never happened to me before. Of course I was pissed, slammed my journal. God, I was like, I can't believe this is happening. Went over to this shady table where I was perfectly fine. But it was a reminder to me that that voice and that intuition was present, and I had a choice to either listen to it or ignore it. And I could either pretend that I knew better or trust. And so I'm sharing this story with you all because you all are in Toastmasters. You all appreciate the power of the tongue, and you have a message to share with other people. So I invite you, sometime in the next couple days or next couple hours, if you find yourself feeling a little stuck or not knowing which direction to go at a crossroads, take a breath, connect to your higher self or just your own thoughts, notice your thoughts, and see if you can create a little space and let your response come from a place of reflecting your growth in your power. Thank you.
Thank you, Leah, for that speech.
You're welcome.
Once